Okay, so America bombed Iran, bombed the nuclear sites, flattened them, and then America accepted a ceasefire. And the moment that ceasefire was announced, do you know what the Iranian president did? He went on national television and called it, and I want you to remember this exact quote, a great victory. And then the supreme leader of Iran, Khamenei, gets up and says, the American strikes did nothing significant. He says America gained nothing. He says Iran will never surrender. Now you're sitting at home and you're thinking, wait a minute here. You just got bombed. Your nuclear sites are destroyed. Millions of your own people are fleeing your cities. And you're calling this a victory. Here's the thing. They might actually be right. Today I want to walk you through exactly why, step by step, because if you think America got the better end of this ceasefire, I'm going to show you something that's going to seriously change your mind. If you're learning something here, please hit subscribe. Many of you are aware of what's been happening with the channel. If you feel like supporting, a link in the description. I've spent months researching what's coming between 2026 and 2030, and I put it all into an ebook called The Next Global Shift, How to Stay Ahead of Economic Collapse and War. The economies, the conflicts, the moves you need to make. If you want my ebook, link in the description. All right, first, let's back up, because to understand why Iran may have already won, you need to understand what Iran's actual strategy is, okay? Iran doesn't have a military anywhere close to America's. They know they cannot fight the United States in a straight up head-to-head war and come out on top. So instead, for decades, Iran built something called the Axis of Resistance. What is that? It's a network of allies spread across the entire Middle East. Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, armed groups in Iraq. And for a long time, the Assad government in Syria. The idea is very simple. You can't punch America directly, okay? America is too big, but what you can do is poke them everywhere all at once so they can never get comfortable, never pivot away, never fully focus their attention somewhere else, like Russia, like China, okay? Iran's goal was never to defeat America on a battlefield. Iran's goal is to keep America stuck, keep America bleeding slowly, keep America spending money and military attention in the Middle East forever. That is the game. So now let's ask ourselves honestly, did this ceasefire help Iran play that game? Or did it stop it? All right, June 2025, this is where it all explodes. On June 13, 2025, Israel launches what they call Operation Rising Lion. They send over 200 fighter jets, and that is not a small number. Okay, flying roughly 1,500 sorties over 12 days. They hit more than 100 Iranian facilities, nuclear sites, military sites. They kill key scientists. They kill key commanders. From Israel's perspective, this is the moment they've been building toward for decades. Iran fights back with something they call Operation True Promise 3. And here's where it gets interesting. Iran fires roughly 550 ballistic missiles and around 1,000 drones at Israel in 12 days. That is a staggering number of weapons. About 90% are intercepted. Okay, so Israel's defenses mostly hold. But here is the part that doesn't get enough attention. 31 missiles made it through. 31. They hit a power station. They hit an oil refinery in Haifa. They hit a university. 28 Israelis are killed, almost all of them civilians. Over 3,000 injured. More than 9,000 people displaced. Now on the Iranian side, the damage is far worse. Between roughly 1,060 and 1,190 Iranians are killed by Israeli strikes. Nearly 5,000 injured. And here's a detail that should really stick with you. About 9 million people fled Tehran and other major cities, running toward the northern provinces. 9 million people just running. Can you picture that? Then on June 22nd, 3 days before the ceasefire, the United States enters the war directly. American planes drop bunker buster bombs on Natanz, Fordow, and Isfahan. These are Iran's crown jewels, the most important nuclear facilities they have. The Institute for the Study of War later concludes that those strikes severely curtailed Iran's nuclear enrichment for the foreseeable future. So by the time the ceasefire arrived, Iran has lost nuclear facilities, key commanders, and roughly half of its entire ballistic missile stockpile either fired at Israel or destroyed by Israeli strikes. That sounds like a catastrophic loss, right? Okay. Keep that number in the back of your mind. We are coming back to it. Now here is where it gets genuinely remarkable, because a ceasefire itself is almost a film. On June 23rd, Iran fires 14 missiles at Udeid Air Base in Qatar, one of the most important American bases in the entire Middle East. No one is killed. And do you know what Trump does? He goes on social media and thanks Iran for the very weak response. He basically signals, all right, let's make a deal. That same evening, Trump announces a ceasefire brokered through Qatar. Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, comes out immediately and says, hold on, there's no formal agreement. But he says Iran will stop attacking if Israel stops by 4 a.m. Tehran time. Not exactly a surrender, okay? The next morning, the ceasefire nearly falls apart completely. Iran keeps firing missiles at Beersheba, at northern Israel. Iran says Israeli strikes are still continuing on their side. And Israel is apparently preparing a massive retaliatory strike in response. And here is a single detail that tells you everything about who had leverage in this situation. Trump reportedly pressures Netanyahu to cancel that big strike. Israel ends up hitting only one radar site near Tehran, a fraction of what they had planned. America, the most powerful country on earth, talks Israel down from its own retaliation, and then it holds. And every single side immediately declares victory. Trump says, victory for everybody. Netanyahu calls it a historic victory that will stand for generations. And Pezeshkian, the Iranian president, says, great victory. And Khamenei says, America gained nothing. Okay, so who's actually telling the truth here? Here's what I want you to understand. Winning a war is not just about who loses more soldiers or whose buildings get blown up more. Okay, that is not how it works in the modern world. Number one, the regime survived. And survival is the whole game for Iran. Israel and America went in with an explicit goal: destroy Iran's nuclear capabilities, devastate its military. They did serious damage, no question about that. But the Islamic Republic of Iran is still standing. Khamenei is still in charge. The government did not collapse. And from a Shia perspective, a culture that has always defined itself as the persecuted minority, willing to sacrifice and endure, surviving a direct attack from the world's most powerful military and its strongest ally is not spin. That is victory. That is genuinely how they understand the world. You understand? Number two, Iran flipped the nuclear oversight story on its head. After the ceasefire, Iran's parliament votes to end all cooperation with the IAEA, the International Nuclear Watchdog. Iran signals it may leave the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty entirely. Think about what that means. Iran entered this conflict with a damaged nuclear program, and it exits the conflict with less international oversight than it had before. In the long run, how is that a loss for Iran's nuclear ambitions? Number three, look at what happened to the American story of leaving the Middle East. For years, Washington talked about pivoting away from the region, focusing on China, reducing its footprint. That idea is dead. By 2024, the United States already had more than 10,000 troops spread across Bahrain, Iraq, Israel, Jordan, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and beyond, plus 2 aircraft carrier groups. Does that look like a country leaving the region? And by 2025 and into 2026, America is more deeply embedded there than ever. More troops, more carriers, presidential visits, high-stakes diplomacy. America is stuck. And that is exactly what Iran's strategy was designed to produce. But here is the part that really settles the argument. Because the 12-day war was just Act 1. By early 2026, the United States and Israel are at open war with Iran. And Iran plays its most powerful card, the Strait of Hormuz. What is the Strait of Hormuz? It's a narrow waterway in the Persian Gulf. And about 20% of all the oil consumed in the entire world flows through it every single day. 20%, plus about 20% of the world's liquefied natural gas. In early 2026, Iran's Revolutionary Guard declares it closed. They threaten to set any vessel attempting passage ablaze. At least 5 tankers are damaged, 2 people killed, about 150 ships stranded. Effectively, more than 90% of normal oil and refined product flows are blocked. What happens to oil prices? They shoot past $100 a barrel. Some analysts see them reaching $150 if the closure holds. By April 5th, 2026, Brent crude is around $110. US crude around $113. Every American driver feels this at the gas pump. The International Energy Agency, whose entire job is stabilizing global oil markets, has to release a record 400 million barrels of emergency crude reserves just to try to slow the bleeding. And then, here's the part I really want you to sit with. The United States sends a 15-point ceasefire proposal to Iran through Pakistan as a go-between. The proposal asks Iran to accept limits on its nuclear program, restrictions on its missiles, and guarantees of free passage through the Strait of Hormuz. In exchange, some sanctions relief. Iran rejects it, flat out, and sends back a counterproposal demanding that the United States recognize Iranian sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz and pay war reparations. Okay, now you tell me who has the leverage in that negotiation. All right, I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, but Iran lost so much. Their nuclear program is badly damaged. Roughly half their ballistic missile stockpile is gone. Their proxy network, Hamas devastated in Gaza, Hezbollah hit hard in Lebanon, Assad's Syria collapse has been gutted since 2023, thousands of Iranians are dead. You're right, all of that is true, and it matters. But here is what you have to weigh against it. 6 American soldiers are killed in the 2026 war. Oil is trading above $100 a barrel, which comes straight out of the wallet of every retired American on a fixed income, every family at the pump. The United States is now deploying thousands of Marines and paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne Division into the region on top of the forces already there. And America came into all of this with the stated goal of eliminating Iran as a strategic threat. Iran is still there, still fighting, still holding the key to the world's most important oil choke point. And here's the last thing I want you to think about. The next time a government somewhere in the world is thinking about whether to stand up to the United States, they will look at what happened here. They will see that Iran took the full force of American and Israeli air power and didn't fall. That story doesn't go away. It travels. Winning and losing in geopolitics is not like a football game, okay? There is no final buzzer. There is no trophy handed out at the end. The question you have to ask is this: whose long-term goals were advanced and whose were set back? America went in wanting to end Iran's nuclear threat. The sites are damaged, but Iran now has less international nuclear oversight than before. America wanted to stabilize the region. Instead, it is more entangled than it has been in years. America wanted oil prices down. Right now, oil is around $110 a barrel, and American families are paying for it. Iran wanted to survive a direct confrontation with the most powerful military on earth. It survived. Iran wanted to keep America stuck in the Middle East. America is more stuck than before. Iran wanted to show the world that simply being stronger doesn't mean you automatically win. That message has been sent. Now, I'm not saying this is over. The war is still going. There are very real questions about whether the Iranian economy and its people can absorb the long-term damage, whether the axis of resistance can rebuild, whether the regime itself can hold together under the pressure. But the ceasefire America accepted, the terms Iran is now demanding in exchange for peace, the oil prices hitting American households right now, that does not look like the picture of a country that lost. This is the video today. If you want my ebook, link in the description. See you later.